Multiple reports have suggested that our superstar, Zach LaVine, is going to be traded from the Chicago Bulls. We're going to get into that and everything that you need to know about this trade rumor in this episode of Bulls Digest. I'm your host, Joey Mercer, and let's get right into it. So yeah, there is rumors of a Zach LaVine trade. There have been multiple rumors over the past 2 seasons of him being moved from the Chicago Bulls to a different team, but we haven't gotten too much in depth as to where he could go or why the Bulls would be making this move. I'm going to talk to you about all of that in this episode. So the first thing I want to say is Greg Swartz was the guy that posted this article initially from Bleacher Report, and these are the things that he had said amongst with some other reporters about a Zach LaVine trade off of the Bulls. It says, if the Bulls decide to pivot to a rebuild this season, one of the first moves the front office has to make is to trade their best asset, being Zach LaVine. Long considered one of the best scorers, albeit his robust numbers don't usually translate to wins, LaVine may fetch the Bulls a package of draft picks and young players they could use to kickstart their rebuild. I'm going to have to disagree with this. I understand that Zach LaVine hasn't been on winning teams in the past and people don't look into that. Until about 2 seasons ago when they got Lonzo Ball, the Bulls had no support for him whatsoever. They also got DeMar DeRozan that offseason, which people don't remember. So LaVine had a team of very young players who were inexperienced and not ready to take on the league in a playoff prowess right away. So we had guys like Chris Gunn, Wendell Carter Jr., and Lauri Markkanen on the side of him, all who weren't at their ready potential at the time. They were rawer talents, and Lauri Markkanen was the only guy that looked to be a starter at that time, and his defense was so poor that we couldn't rely on him to be a solid option, where his offense also wasn't polished enough to be up to the level of a guy such as Vooch. Another thing to mention is when he was on the Timberwolves, they didn't have a very good team either. They were in the lottery each and every single year. He was, of course, part of the trade that sent Jimmy Butler to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we got Lauri Markkanen as a draft pick back, as well as Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has been great for the Bulls. He's put up major numbers for them. He's had some great games, and he's played the best of his career. Although he hasn't been able to get it done on the defensive end, I do believe that he's been such a good offensive talent that it has definitely offset that. He's had a shaky start to the season, and we're going to talk about where I think he can raise that bar this year and get back on track later on in this video. So it is said that he is a terrific scorer, although he's long been a flawed defender who hasn't impacted winning the way a multiple-time All-Star should. Now in his 10th season, he has only finished with a positive swing rating twice in his career, with the Bulls currently getting beat by 6.7 points per 100 possessions with their star guard on the floor. Swartz said of LaVine, who has been rumored to be a trade target of the Sixers. So that's interesting there. I just talked about how I think LaVine is such a good scorer that it offsets the defense, and they're talking about how the Bulls are this much worse when he's not on the floor. I think it might just be a coincidence of lineups. I don't think it's necessarily all on Zach LaVine. The 76er trade, what could happen there? I'm not sure if they would have the pieces to move. It would probably be based around the guys that they just traded to the Los Angeles Clippers in return, and then we would start a rebuild based on the fact that their contracts are expiring on a lesser value than that of Zach LaVine. I don't think that's the right move right now. I think we need to hold on LaVine, and if we're doing a rebuild, the Philadelphia 76ers are probably not the team we want to go to. I think it would be better to go to a team with younger talent, such as the Orlando Magic, who we just dealt a couple seasons ago and got Vooch in return for giving them Wendell Carter Jr., along with some draft capital, which last season they didn't really get much out of. I believe that was the Jet Howard pick, so nothing really lost there. Hard to say, obviously, as of right now, but so far Jet Howard has not impressed me at all, and that's not really a guy that I would have wanted to be on the Chicago Bulls to begin with, so that's where my take's going to stand on that. The next thing I want to talk about is, should the Bulls even trade Zach LaVine? Is it time to move on from our multiple-time All-Star? I've talked about Alex Caruso being traded yesterday to the Lakers potentially, and I've also talked about DeMar DeRozan being trade rumors around him. But is Zach LaVine the guy that's going to get us the most assets? Probably out of those three, I would agree that Zach LaVine is the guy to get us the most assets. I don't know if it's time to rebuild right now, but if it is, he is the guy on this team that we could get the most for and maybe still remain relevant if we were to keep around a DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and the rest of our core along with Vooch. So these are the stats that Zach LaVine has posted this season. This is what you, as you can see me in the camera, but this is what he has posted over this season so far. So his true shooting percentage, these are based on percentile basis. He is in the 40th percentile of the NBA, which is just not getting it done. Obviously, you want to be above the 50th percentile, being that you're in the top 50% of the NBA. His shot quality is in the 89th percentile, which is phenomenal. His free throw rate is in the 74th percentile, which is definitely getting it done. And his three-point attempted rate is actually just around league average at 52. His offensive rebound rate obviously is one of the worst in the NBA, so he's not crashing the glass at all. And his turnovers are in the 40th percentile when he's trying to create. That's what that CTOV stands for. So that's something to worry about as well. When the ball's in his hand, which I've noticed a lot this season, and he's trying to create, he turns it over a lot of the time. The load management for him, it is in the 82nd percentile, but when you look at how often he's turning the ball over, that isn't that great. The portability just means how he's going to fit on a different team, and right now it's in the 61st percentile, so it's kind of a neither here nor there. The creation just means how often and available he is to create on the basketball court. That's in the 76th percentile, which is very good, and his passer rating below league average at 47%. Overall, they're putting him as an offensive player in the 85th percentile, so he's still a very good offensive talent. But then when you get to the defense, he's not getting it done. He's in the 12th percentile on defense overall, and you can look at the stats there. The only thing he's doing well is contesting shots at the rim. That would be the rim frequency. However, when you look at deflections and his average defensive turnovers, his defensive rebound percentage, none of those are very good for an NBA level. That's something to worry about. His defense is so bad that his offense has got to take another step up this season in order for that to balance out. I think he can make this jump, as I think they should run more pick and rolls between him and Vooch. Right now, I'm not seeing a lot of that happen. I'm seeing a lot of LaVine just putting his head down against 4 people, 3 people, or even just a double team. It's never one-on-one, and trying to force his way to the rim with reckless regard. That is not how he's going to get things done, and I don't think that's the best way for him to be getting the ball rolling and scoring here at all. So yeah, it is said that the Bulls are in a rebuild, and they don't even know it. They are pretty bad. That is what Brian Windhorst of ESPN said. Brian Windhorst, of course, the guy who loves LeBron James and tweeted this. This has nothing to do with LeBron James, but he has said that the Bulls are so bad currently that we are in a rebuild and we just don't know it and just don't have the pieces. We haven't been that great so far, although the loss, last night in overtime by 1 point over the Phoenix Suns was a solid game. Caruso had a great stop to force overtime at the end of the game on Kevin Durant, and we just fell short in overtime. I thought overall the Bulls played great in that game and did carry on their overall advantage that they had over the Utah Jazz and that energy right into the Phoenix Suns game. And I thought they did play a great game, and it was the best game that I've seen them play in the season was actually against the Phoenix Suns, not the Utah Jazz. Strangely enough, it was against a much better team. They held their composure, they held in there, and they only lost by just 1 point. So any, loose ball deflection, anything could have gone their way, and they definitely could have won that game. The next and last thing I want to talk about, is a rebuild going to happen? Is it in the works for a rebuild to happen this season? Is it going to happen at the trade deadline? Is it going to happen the All-Star break? Is it going to happen at the end of the season? Is it going to happen at all? I'd like to say yes. I do think a rebuild is going to happen here. I think there are going to be some blockbuster trades just around the corner. I think a few of our stars are going to be moved, and I do think it is time for us to settle into a rebuild. I've talked about us being one piece away from a playoff team, but the more that I've watched this team, I've realized that we are one piece away from being a rebuilding team as well, because, like I've said, we are right there at the play-in, and I don't think that we're going to have what it takes to get another superstar, as I've looked more into that, and I think that the Bulls are going to have to take a step back and rebuild. And that isn't such a bad idea. It can be good. There are great prospects in the league right now. And although I think this next upcoming draft is not the greatest, the year after looks phenomenal. And some of the guys that you have right now that are prospects in the league are so young that we don't know where they're going to be by just next season. This has been your host, Joey Mercer. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like and subscribe. Make sure to if you enjoy this. We're doing Bulls content here each and every single day, so why not just hit that subscribe button? Hit the bell for notifications. You'll get notified when I upload these videos. And every day we're going to be talking about Bulls content, some rumors. You never know what's going to come up in the news, or maybe we'll just be reacting to a game. Whatever it is, it's going to be Bulls content. I'm your host, Joey Mercer. I'll see you in the next one.